So, what is the humanistic perspective in psychology? It's a very interesting question, and we're going to take a look to see what this perspective is about. It's a very, very important perspective that's impacted the discipline of psychology for a long time, since the 1950s, and it is still impacting the discipline today in many ways, scholarship and research. The literature is just filled with this perspective. It's a very unique perspective, unlike the others in psychology. So let's take a closer look. So here it says the focus of the humanistic perspective is the psychological health of human beings. Let's take note of this. This is a very, very critical point. The psychological health of human beings is the main focus, is the core of this perspective. The psychological health of human beings, our health as human beings mentally, and our ability to function, psychologically in the proper way. And then the question then becomes, how does it focus on the psychological health of human beings? What does it do? In what method does it use? Well, it uses methods such as psychotherapy, right, with emphasis on the values, free will of individuals. This is very important to understand. And so let's take another look at this. So it says here, the focus once again is the psychological health of human beings, and it uses methods such as psychotherapy with emphasis on values, free will of individuals, and goodness of people. This is very interesting. So let's take a look at this again, because it's a very important perspective in psychology. It uses methods such as psychotherapy. Now the question is, what is psychotherapy? Well, the short answer is the treatment of mental conditions by verbal communication interaction. Mental conditions, stress, mental illness perhaps, by verbal communication and interaction. Now a more detailed definition says a variety of treatment that is aimed to help a person identify and change troubling emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, right? That's psychotherapy. It uses psychotherapy with emphasis on values, free will of individuals, and goodness, right? Goodness of people. The main thrust of this perspective is the ability, and here's the point here. Here's the core point. The main thrust, please take note, this is the core. This is the core of this perspective, humanistic perspective. The main thrust of the perspective is the ability to be in charge of human behavior. So we are in charge of our behavior. We are in control of our behavior. We determine our destiny, so to speak. We determine where we go and how we get there, right? So human behavior is controlled by the self, right? So human behavior is controlled, let's put this here, by the self. This is self, right? It's by itself. It's controlled by the self. So the main thrust of this perspective is the ability to be in charge of human behavior. This perspective believes that we are all different. We are all different, right? And that no two people are the same. Even if they are twins, they cannot be the same according to this perspective, right? No two people are the same, and therefore our experience of the world is different. The way we experience the world is totally different because no two people are the same. We are unique in our composition. We are unique in our behavior, in our thoughts, and how we see the world, because no two people are the same. And this is the main thrust of this perspective. This is very important. And when we begin to look at the humanistic perspective, we begin to understand how humans have control of their own affairs and take control of their own affairs, and how humans determine their life and govern their life accordingly, right? It says here, a major underpinning of this perspective is ability or innate potential for human beings to reach their fullest potential and determine and control their own affairs. So human beings have the ability to reach their fullest potential, right? They grow and get to their fullest potential. And by so doing, and in the process, they determine and control their own affairs. No one else They are the ones in charge of their own affairs, according to this perspective. The humanistic perspective was introduced in the 1950s and 1960s, so it's been a long time, right? It's been a one spanning over 60 years, clearly, and heading to 70, spanning over 70 years, as a matter of fact, right? Spanning over 70 years, by Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers, and Viktor Frankl. This is the humanistic perspective. It's a very, very important perspective in psychology. A perspective that has had tremendous impact on the discipline. It has become a subject of research and scholarship because it talks about human behavior and how human beings take control of their behavior and how they control their affairs and how two human beings cannot be the same. So let's put that here because this is a key point of this perspective. So the first one is the focus of this perspective is psychological health, right? So psychological health of human beings. That's number one. And it achieves that using psychotherapy, right? Psychotherapy. By using psychotherapy, that's how it achieves this focus of human health, ensuring that human beings have healthy disposition, etc. And then it goes on to say that the emphasis is on values, free will, and goodness of people. Free will of individual and goodness of people, right? So let's put here, so characteristics, this is characteristics of people, right? Characteristics of people. Then it goes on to say the main thrust of this perspective is the ability to be in charge of human behavior, right? So let's put that here as well, that this is number 4, in charge of our behavior. What we do depends on us. We can blame somebody else. That's what this is saying. This perspective believes that we are different with no two people the same. Therefore, our experience of the world is different. Right, so here we put unique, right, uniqueness of the individual. And finally, it says here the major underpinning of this perspective is the ability or innate potential for human beings to reach their fullest potential and determine and control their own affairs. So let's put that here 6, right? So full potential. Human beings will get to the full potential. This is the humanistic perspective. And it says here, finally, the humanistic perspective was introduced in the 1950s and 60s. And this is very important because it tells us how long it's been around. It tells us how long it has been part of the discipline and how long it has been influencing scholarship and the literature by Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers, and Viktor Frankl.